He thought he was signing for a small cargo job and a short trip to the outer station near Jupiter, but a fast talker slid a slate across the desk and pointed to the green box that said accept and move, and he pressed his thumb with a tired smile. Was Caleb, and he wanted clean work and quiet days and a little money to send home to his sister Megan in Kansas. He told himself it was simple work. Lift boxes, check seals, keep the log and return before winter came to the plane's shuttle was. Old and the hole sang like a kettle in hard burn. He watched the stars slide like cold rain outside the window, and he rested his head on the seat and let the hum carry him one. He woke a station light spread across the cabin like dawn, and the captain handed him a chipped tablet and said the cargo is living and must be signed by the one who agreed to care, and he felt a slow weight settle in his chest. A door hissed, and a small figure stood inside the bay, hands folded, eyes bright like wet amber. Skin a soft silver tone like moonlight on water, and hair braided in simple cords. The tag on the crate read service tier and a code he did not know, and a name written in a clear hand. Lily Caleb said to himself that a mistake had been made. He turned the tablet and read the contract with new eyes, long pages that he missed before, lines thick with careful words. A labor bond for one cycle care, shelter protection, basic education, cultural bridge duties shared between guardian and ward payments. Released on milestones and penalties for harm or neglect, felt heat in his cheeks. He had not meant to sign a life into his care, yet the seal bore his print in the station. Clerk looked bored, and the captain already drifted toward another bay. So Caleb took a breath and stepped closer to the girl. I watched him without fear, her head tilted like a curious bird. She held a small cloth pack to her chest, and she stood very still. He lowered his voice and told her his name. He said he would not trade her, he said. He would find out what was right and fair, he said. They would sort this together, nodded once in a tiny smile grew like a lamp warming in dusks. First night on the station was a maze of rules. They were sent to a small room with 2 bunks, a sink, and a window that showed a river of ships sliding past like slow fish. Caleb gave Lily the lower bunk and the blanket with soft fleece. He took the top bunk and lay awake counting the quiet clanks that came through the while he read more of the contract and learned the word servant meant something different in her culture. It meant a student who serves to learn, and a guardian who teaches by sharing daily work. It meant a bond like an apprenticeship, and a path to citizenship. If the bond was honored and closed with dignity, felt his shoulders loosen. He thought of Megan and how she taught kids to read in a small-town library back on Earth. He thought he could do this if he took care and stayed honest. In the morning, the station changed from quiet blue to a warm amber in the halls, filled with traders and pilots and workers with grease on their hands. They walked to a clinic for a health scan. The nurse was named Nora, and she spoke gentle words and offered a soft smile. Lily watched each step and mirrored it like a slow dance, and Nora marked good health on the slate outside the clinic. A tall man with a metal pin on his coat weighted his eyes like nails. He called Caleb by name and said, "There is a correction desk for contract errors. It sits on deck 9, but the line is long." He said he could speed things for a fee. He said the girl could be placed elsewhere. In our Caleb felt the air turn thin. He looked at Lily and saw her grip tighten on the cloth pack. He thanked the man and said he would go to deck 9 himself. The man nodded without warmth and walked away with a step that made no sound. Deck 9, the line bent around a corner. People held slates inside and shifted their feet. A woman in a blue jacket passed water cups and shared small candies to kids. Lily took one and tucked it in her pack to save for later. Caleb watched the counter and the clock and the slow crawl of names. When their turn came, the clerk looked up with tired eyes and read the file. She said the bond was legal and clean, and the only way to break it early was to move the ward to another guardian with consent and oversight, or to fail the bond through harm or neglect, which would ban him from work across the belt and beyond. Caleb felt the choice close, like a door. There was no fast fix and no clean escape. He turned to Lily and said he would honor the bond. He said he would do right and teach what he could and learn what he must. Lee touched her pack and nodded again, the small smile returned at thee. Took a small cargo job to the icy mines of Callisto, crates of filters and warm suits and seed gels for the hydro bays. Lily learned the words for wrench and seal and safety. Line she learned how to log each crate and how to check the tether twice and how to hold the rail when the station spun a little faster at night. They sat by the window and looked at the long glare of Jupiter and the thin flare of the sun, and she asked, without words, by tapping her fingers on the glass, why this giant glowed like a sleeping fire, and he told the story of storms the size of continentes. Past and trust grew like a plant reaching for light. They learned a steady rhythm, clean the tools, eat simple meals, run the prepholite list together, rest and read, she taught. Him a game with flat stones like checkers, but each move was a riddle, and each riddle was a lesson about her people. She showed him a small charm from her pack smooth, bones shaped like a river bend, a gift from her mother-own night. The tall man with the metal pin returned. He found them near the loading bay. He said a ship would pay well for a ward like Lily, he said. Some houses in the outer rim liked rare students. With calm minds and quick hands, he said, the bond could be moved if Caleb signed a release. Caleb said he would not sell a person. He said the bond was a promise they had made together. He stood square, and he met the hard eyes of the man. The man smiled. Without joy, and said accidents happen in cold bays. Then he left. Caleb felt cold along his spine. He checked the seals twice. He walked Lily back to their room and set a chair by the door. He did not sleep in the morning. A crate on their list was wrong. The weight was light. The seal was new, but the number did not match. Caleb felt the hairs on his arms rise. He opened the crate in the presence of a bay guard named Kate, and inside he found a hidden pod that could cut through a lock like sugar in. Kate called security, and they checked the cameras and found a short clip of a shadow by the crate. The frame froze on the metal pin, and the sharp profile of the man. The guard wrote a report and marked route as hot. They would need to move. With Karithi, next trip took them to a quiet moon base, where the lights were soft and the corridors smelled like pine sap from the biohalls Lily loved. The scent. She walked slower and breathed deeper. They delivered the cargo and turned back fast to avoid the hot route, but the nav pulled them toward a narrow lane with little traffic, and Caleb knew. It was a cut thrust and drifted and set the ship to dark run. He and Lily moved in silence. Each hand on a task, he watched the scope and counted the blips, 2 small tugs behind, 1 ahead. He opened a panel and showed Lily how to run a pulse that would make their ship look like a cold rock. For a short time she learned fast, and her fingers were steady. For 9 slow minutes they drifted. Like a leaf in night, the tug slid past, hunting for a glow that was not there. Then the lane widened, and the scope cleared, and Caleb let out a breath. He did not know he held. He thanked Lily, and she gave a shy nod and touched the charm in her packet. The station. Kate met them with news. The man with the pin had a name, Finn, and he worked for a broker who moved bonds into dark markets, she said. The broker had ties to a house out past I.O., where students went in and did not come out. The station had been slow to act, but the report from the crate gave them cause now. Kate asked for a statement and for the tablet logs. Caleb handed them over and added a copy of the wrong weight entry, and the camera. Still, Kate promised to file an alert on the lane and to put a watch on Finlay. Stood close to Caleb as people came and went. The station noise rose and fell like tide. She stayed calm, yet her eyes kept to the corners and the doors. She was learning the way of risk and how to mark exits. With a glance, weeks rolled forward, work after work, small pays stacked like coins on a windowsill. Caleb taught Lily to cook a simple stew on a coil burner and to fix a torn cuff with neat stitches. He showed her pictures of Kansas fields, gold and wide, and she smiled at the shape of the clouds like ships on a sky ocean. A message blinked on the slate. Hearing set for the bond in 30 days. The station board would review progress and decide if Lily had learned enough for a first tier test. If she passed, she could choose her next path, and the bond could be adjusted to a lighter form with shared rights and shared choice. Caleb and Lily doubled their lessons. They practiced language for trade and for law. They studied station maps and safety codes. They walked the charity deck and helped at the soup line. Lily served warm bowls with quiet grace and listened to tired pilots. tell old stories of near loss, and sudden Luckfin did not vanish. He watched from corners sometimes. Caleb felt his gaze like a wire across the back of his neck one night. He found a small smear of black on their door and a tiny camera bead in the vent. He took it to Kate, and she swore under her breath and moved them to a safer room and set a silent alarm on the Hallen. The day of the hearing, the boardroom was bright with white light, and a long window showed a wheel of ships, too.